Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Chop Talk. This is your buddy Choppadong coming at you with another version of Chop Talk, brought to you as always by DFSArmy.com, your one-stop shop for all things DFS from MMA to PGA to NFL to MLB. That is what we do, and that is how we do it. We dominate every single thing. We've had a 10K winner this week. We've had a bunch of winners in the last few weeks. This is just what we do with coaching and tools and optimization processes and everything to help make you a better DFS player. So head to the comments section, click on the link, use the code CHOP, C-H-O-P, jump in, become a VIP if you haven't caught anything that I've ever done before. There's a lot of stuff back on YouTube, so subscribe to the channel. Follow me out here on Twitter. We're always talking DFS, man. It's what we do. We enjoy the hobby. It's what we want to do. So let's dive in today, and let's talk a little bit about some of the content that DFS Army produces because, again, if this is your first time, you don't know what all we do. If it's your millionth time, sometimes we need a little reminder. We have stuff coming out for PGA this time of the week. We have MLB articles all over the place, from play draft to shark autopsy, which is basically a review of a winning GPP lineup, where the person went, maybe what he did, how he put his lineup together to make us a better DFS MLB player when it comes to tournaments. But we have everything from cash to GPP mines, to league plays, to ladders, to hybridized lineup systems. If you're not familiar with those terms, get familiar with them. PGA, NASCAR, of course the other sports that are a little bit smaller right now this time of year. It's always what we do. We're also talking about sports betting. It's a market that has been legalized. It's across the states now. The states are going to get on board really, really quick, and we're trying to get ahead of the curve there too. And we want to start coaching people to become better players. So we're always looking for other people that have experience in the field and experts and stuff that we're going to bring on board ourselves, and then we're going to start teaching people how to get better inside that hobby as well. It's a little different, but a little bit the same principles. Bankroll management, etc., are going to come into play with sports betting as well as with DFS, so it's a natural transition for all of us that love our sports. That's just what we're going to do. So now I don't have any details on that yet, probably won't for a while, but I'm just telling you that we are always positioned to be ahead of the curve. We are a content provider, we are a coaching website, and that's our niche. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make you a better sports bettor, going to make you a better player. That's just what DFSArmy.com does. So once again, without further ado, let's close these little bits out here and let's jump into the research station today and let's take a look. I wanted to play the smaller slate. I wrote up the main slate. If you follow Chin Music, thank you. It's out there for you. You can talk about the main slate if you want. But what I want to do is focus more on the smaller 8 and 8-15 games, because that little 5-game slate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, is going to direct you towards where I'm going to be playing, where I'm going to focus. I like these slates for a reason. 5 games isn't so small that it's really fluky and that one guy has to go off or you don't win, although it certainly helps. 5 games, big enough to play cash, small enough to play tournaments. It's a good mix. A lot of times it helps you identify the chalk. A lot of times it helps you get away from the chalk. Sometimes we eat it, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we'll play one big cash lineup and then we'll hedge against it by stacking against it. Sometimes it's just not a good cash slate no matter what we do. So the first thing I do is I dive into the pitchers. And I'm going to scroll over here and look at the DFSA grades. And I see Garrett Cole is a dominant pitcher. I see Domingo Germán is also in there. Gaussman's has potential. James Shields has potential. Luke Weaver's pitching for his life. So it looks like the top half of these guys are maybe in okay spots. What I would also do is I would compare the K percentage with the handedness of the opponent's K percentage. This is opponents facing, right or left-handed pitchers appropriately, and this is what the pitcher does to the opposing batters. He strikes out 27% of the batters that he faces, and these batters are striking out this percentage of the time against the handedness of pitcher they're facing today. So Garrett Cole, if I add these two together, I'm going to get what? 25 plus 26 is about a 51, 510, 51%. Call it a 510, 519 K score. Domingo Germán is a 27 facing a 26. That's a 53. Roughly. So Germán has, on a smaller sample size, we're looking at total batters faced over the past year, or so. We got 1,000 batters versus 200 batters. So small sample size warning on Germán. But when Germán, whatever the hell his name is, I'm going to pronounce him Herman or Herman if I want to. When we scroll over to the Vegas odds, the other combination that we like to look for is big Vegas favorites. And you find Cole's a huge Vegas favorite. You find Luke Weaver's a huge Vegas favorite. German, not so much. You know, you can find team total runs here and focus on defenses set to do a bunch of scoring as well. So what are we looking at? Yankees and Cardinals. So just like last night, they led the slate. They're probably in position to lead it again. The reason why I know is the Kansas City pitcher Jason Hamill. Although he's done pretty well against St. Louis, Jason Hamill has a horrible ERA. This time of year, or for this late in the year, he's getting knocked around pretty good, as is Kansas City. So not a great team, not a great matchup. Luke Weaver should pick up the win if we ran that scenario 1,000 times, but you never know on any given night how it's going to strike out or how it's going to strike out. Listen to me with the baseball puns. So I've got a rough idea of who I like. I want to see price-wise maybe who I like. You know, Jamon's not terrible. Luke Weaver's not terrible. I'd run those guys over James Shields. I don't know that I'm going to pay all the way up for Garrett Cole when I got something that feels like it's also got 30 to 40 point potential for a little more than half the price. But I do think Garrett Cole is probably your cash game pitcher. It's just going to force you in these bats. People are going to want to play the Yankees. So based on that, I'm trying to decide in my head how chalky I think Garrett Cole will be. I think he'll be pretty, fairly. I think the people that want to play the New York Yankees bats are going to be forced to go somewhere else unless they play the bottom of that batting order, which isn't bad. You know, Torres got, 2 home runs last night. Hicks, Walker, those guys were beating the cover off the ball. So, maybe that produces again, maybe not. Your odds are your damage is coming from the big bats up top. But that's of any lineup. What we're looking for is the teams to target. So we've got some of the pitching that we want to target. We want to, Cole, German, Weaver, Gaussman, whatever types. The way that we go here is we look at the bottom of the ratings scale and we target the pitchers at the bottom. Say under a 40 if we can. Under a 30 is great. Under a 50, all right, whatever. We're starting to get into average type pitchers that are not necessarily somebody we want to just blindly attack. Lance Lynn, definitely. His ERA is horrible this year. Matt Boyd, when your 2 bottom pitchers are down here in the bottom of the rating system, looks like you could stack Detroit, Minnesota, get off the Yankees and the Cardinals, have yourself a pretty unique lineup tonight. That would be a tip to you. You maybe could attack Cole Hamels a little bit, bottom rating with the Yankees, and there's the Cardinals right there. So if these were the 4 offenses that we used, that'd be all right. And we'll keep Houston in mind. Just because we know they were a great offense last year, we're still waiting for them to largely come around as a unit. They may have some hot hitters in there. So what I'm going to try and do is I'm going to go to my favorite tab, which is the Trends tab. These other tabs are great, and if you've got the time to explore them on dfsarmy.com, go for it. That is a research tool provided to all of our members that have subscribed and become VIPs. Oops, missed that one. So now that I've got those 5 games again, I can look in here like I kind of tend to do at, really likes Houston with the batter ratings. Man, I don't know. Likes the Yankees. There's some St. Louis coming in there. Really likes Houston. So, I mean, maybe we need to take a look at them. Something to check on might be the BVP tab. Check on the BVP versus Cole Hamels. Or, I'm sorry, Andrew Suarez. That would be one way to go. Who knows? I mean, this is just the way it goes. I'm kind of thinking on the fly here, making a video because it's been a while since I've made a video, so I apologize for not being completely prepped up. But sometimes that makes for the better videos because you get to see the process and feel the process as it goes. If I clicked on Houston and pulled all the Houston bats to the top, I've sorted by DFSA grade. That's what I always do. And I'll go over here to the trending WOBA tab. WOBA's results, man. Just is. ISO is power, hard contact, all those things are over here. If you're interested, hard contact, BABIP, 14-day hard BABIP is neat. It takes the difference between hard contact and BABIP, and it shows who's maybe heating up. Bregman would be a good one to keep an eye on right now inside that offense. But we'll see. And see, it's not showing his WOBA coming along yet, so maybe he's hitting into some bad luck, but he's hitting the ball hard, or he wouldn't be on that hard BABIP column so strongly. So maybe there's a little sneaky GPP play for you. I don't think he's sneaky because I think a lot of people are just going to go to him. But when I'm looking at the offense, Jose Altuve's kicked it up. Last week he was terrible. A couple of weeks ago he's been bad. But the rest of this offense, it's still sputtering, man. This is terrible to look at. You're really, in my opinion, kind of gambling. You've got no positive indicator. You had a couple of weeks ago, but you've lost your positive indicator that Houston's in a smash spot. They may be in a smash spot facing a weaker pitcher, but as we saw, Suarez's DFSA rating was kind of middle of the pack. So that's why I wanted to check Houston. If I wanted to take my lead dogs, that's going to be New York, obviously. And if I'm looking 7-day WOBA, Stanton, Sanchez, look at Judge. Judge is cold. Yeah, he hit a bomb last night. This will repair itself over a couple of days if he gets hot again. And then for, cash games and safer contests, we can jump back on the bandwagon. But until then, why do I want a guy with a 115 WOBA and pay $5,000 for him? I don't. He's overpriced. He might hit 2 bombs tonight. That's okay. I can live with that. I personally believe that the way he's going as of right now, today, people rostering him are donkeys. They're not looking at the numbers that matter. The numbers that matter is what kind of matchups he in. Good. What kind of hitter is he? Good. What kind of, how's he running right now? Bad. Oh. You mean you'd rather see him run hot than run cold? Of course. Especially at that price. Now I can take that kind of a gamble on a $2,000, $2,200 hitter. But why would I on a $5,000 hitter? If I was going to pay $5,000 for somebody, would I rather have a guy hitting 115 or 442? So I'm choosing Stanton over Judd. And if it makes me chalky, it makes me freaking chalky. I don't care. Believe me, when I put together 3 or 4 bats from New York, I'm not going to have the same 3 or 4 bats as somebody else. Not to mention the fact that some people are going to get cute and fade them. Some people are going to do St. Louis and Minnesota. If I did New York and Detroit, I'd be different. If I did New York and a Houston bat, I'd be different. If I did New York and St. Louis or New York and Minnesota, I'd be different. I'm not worried about that. I don't care about ownership. It is an overrated concept. All these people that think they're special and think that they're the cat's meow try and tell you that ownership is awesome and you got to find the 1% guy because when he goes off, you're atop the leaderboard. Not if the rest of your lineup sucked. Don't sell out to ownership. Sell out to the better plays. Let ownership take care of itself. All those people generally are just trying to make a name for themselves by being the hero that called the guy who hit 4 home runs, Scooter Gennett last year at 3%. Hey, look at me, aren't I? No, you were playing a subpar play that happened to go off. You're still stupid. Stick with what you know. Stick with what works. Get off of it maybe in a spot or two when it makes sense. Fading the Yankees at a 440, 680, 730, 550, 800, 600 WOBA, that does not make sense. I'm sorry, it does not make sense. You're banking on them going poorly tonight when they are telling you they are raging against the machine. Don't be dumb. Eat it. Get off of Stanton. Get off of Neil Walker. Didi Gregorius has been sucking lately too. Well, 400's not terrible, but he's kind of been sucking. Brett Gardner's all of a sudden sucking last week. Get off those guys. If Clint Frazier jumps into the lineup or Austin Romine jumps in the lineup, take a shot on him. That'd be a great little low-owned play if they don't appear in the top of the order. And that's when you would use ownership to your advantage because the numbers back it up. Now, as I'm sitting here and I'm processing information as I'm talking to you, so just like I said, bear with me. But the 730, the 550, the 680, the 440, these are the guys I'm keying on, would be these 4 bats. Okay? Now, if I came over into St. Louis, and I'd do the same thing. 480. Hello, Matt Carpenter. Red hot right now. 350, Tommy Pham. Tommy Pham's a good hitter. He might be regressing back towards normal numbers a little bit, but he's still a good hitter. He's okay to play. Maybe not at 4,100. I mean, he's all right. I wouldn't fault you for putting him in a stack. I wouldn't play him as a one-off. I'd play Carpenter as a one-off. Dexter Fowler, if he makes a start. Dexter Fowler's odd man out right now because Tyler O'Neill is so flippin' hot right now. Jose Martinez has come back to hitting, 450 WOBA. Get off of Jed Jerko, 176 versus handedness. Stupid. Marcell Ozuna, not hot right now. He's showing signs. Marcell Ozuna will come back. But once again, let him come back and tell you when it's time to play him. Don't try and be the guy that got out ahead of the curve and got lucky as hell. Don't be that guy. That guy usually ends up redepositing. He usually ends up saying, oh, gee, maybe I wasn't right after all. He was really cold. And I heard that he, ate his Wheaties this morning. No, bite me. That's dumb. Wait for better indicators. When you come down here, you see that Tyler O'Neill at the 825. That won't last, but you might as well ride it while it does last. I'd rather play him than guess at Marcell Ozuna, especially when he's still only $2,500. Francisco Pena to 500 Woba. This dude sucks as a hitter, but he's hot right now. Maybe ride the train until it bucks you. It might have bucked you last night with his offer. I don't know. But worth another day or two of looking. Again, in a day or two or three, this 7-day number will adjust big time. In 3 days, if he's not put up any numbers, this 494 will fall right back under 300. And if it's trending that direction, then it's trending the wrong direction. Get off the guy. Who else do we say? Minnesota and Detroit? Let's look at Detroit. 385. Victor Martinez. Oh, okay. Not terrible. John Hicks, 448. James McCann, 344 is playable. Jacoby Jones, Nico Goodrum. If Goodrum gets the start tonight, I'm in. That guy's going to be cheap. Julio Iglesias, there's Goodrum above him, 27, 2,800. Just a nice little mini stack if they fall in the 7 and 8 hole. That's a good cheap stack that would, in a good position, mind you, that would get you over into the Yankees stack and chalk it up. Very few people are going to take both those guys. So guess what? If they both have a decent night and then New York goes off, then you're alone at the top of the leaderboard. You got your low ownership, but you had the numbers to back it up. We go to minute. That's how you play the low ownership game, not I got to go search for the secret play that nobody knows because I got to be the guy that's alone at the top of the leaderboard. No, you're thinking wrong. You're close, but you're thinking wrong. You're on the right track, but you haven't quite connected all of the dots yet to realize that you need to play ownership in the right places. Dozier. Man, why would you play a guy with a 146 Woba in the last 7 days? Why would you play a guy whose OBP this year's under like 250? Come on. Let him get hot. He's a good bat. He'll get hot. 295 no, 283 no, 474. Logan Morrison. Who would I stack him with if I was forced to? Maybe a Kepler. Not great. Rosario, maybe. Bobby Wilson if he gets start, maybe. I don't know. Not really anybody. I might just run Logan Morrison as a one-off. Let everybody else jump into this offense and stack these cold-ass bats. That's just how I do things, okay? Then I'm going to go back out here and I'm going to survey the situation again. And now I've got my offenses and I know who my names are. And I'm going to see if I can't click some of this together by running a lineup out there. Let's say we just pick something real simple. Build a little free one, and then maybe we jam it into some concepts. See, what I'm thinking tonight is I'm thinking on a 5-game slate, I've got New York, St. Louis, Detroit, Minnesota, maybe some Houston, and I'm trying to think of how am I going to work those together. That's a lot of stacks. It's not too many. It's not like I've got 15 games to process. I've got 4 or 5 offenses. I might cut it down to 3, and then how am I going to mix and match some New York and St. Louis, some New York and Minnesota, some New York and Detroit. Okay, New York's covered. St. Louis, New York, St. Louis, Minnesota, St. Louis, Detroit, St. Louis, Houston. Boom, St. Louis is covered. And then, Minnesota and Detroit, fade them all. And then, I might only do that a very, very little bit, but then, Houston and Minnesota or whatever, and kind of start mixing and matching around. Now, I can cover a lot of bases for, say, $10 if I do that. And then really parlay it up and end up with hitting some upside tournaments and some upside GPPs and maybe run a wider spread of what could hit. And then when I watch the scores tonight, Minnesota scored 4 runs and New York scored 8 and Houston scored 6 and St. Louis scored 5 and whatever. And guess what? I've got some of those guys everywhere. It's just now do I have the right combination in the right lineup? Sometimes I look at my phone and I do. Sometimes I look at my phone and oh crap, how did I all that explosion going on in baseball, and how did I dodge it all? Well, sometimes it happens. But if you generally run it out and spread that out, then you're okay. If you are a one lineup guy in baseball, you're kind of behind the curve. You're kind of behind the 8 ball because you're really – now, I'm going to run 10 lineups. I ran, 6 last night on the small slate. So that was basically, if you're a one lineup guy, I just ran a week's worth of lineups. No wonder I hit something. It's just a matter of allocating it properly to where it pays off more than I put in the investment when it does hit. That's how you grind up a bankroll. That's how you make a positive impact on your DFS accounts and whatnot. And that's the kind of coaching that we do, contest selection, allocation. We do a lot of that in the private coaching stuff. That's where I specialize. If you want some kind of one-on-one type coaching, you got to use the code Become a VIP, and you got to hit me up in Slack, and I will coach you till I'm blue in the face. If that's where you need help, is how do I organize my contests? I had a couple of guys built great lineups, said, Your lineups are great. Don't let anybody tell you you're a crappy player. Your contest selection sucks, though. And so we need to fix that. And so we dug in and we fixed that. And within 2-3 days, guys getting results again. So if I wanted to try Garrett Cole, this is going to be tough, and then grab Yankees, I'm not going to be able to. I'm going to have to grab some Detroit probably first. And if I did something like that, I'd rather see the lineups come out. Logan Morrison, I mentioned. Hicks, not bad. But see, now I'm already down to 2,800. So really got to dig for some deep value, and 2,800 out of Iglesias ain't going to do it. I'm going to have to come over here to St. Louis and probably grab Tyler O'Neill and hope he hits another home run at 2,500, because at that price, it's kind of hard to go wrong. And I don't know what I'm going to be able to do with New York. If I scroll down here a little ways, there's Gardner, he's low, Torreyes, Walker, might have to run some walk, can't, because I've already cut out my pieces here with Hicks. And, you know, if I ditched Hicks, then I can open up Walker. You know, Torreyes gets the start. I'd probably bite the bullet there. Andujar's fairly cheap. So now what do I have? I've got a Andujar, Walker stack. They should be projected in the similar spots, you know, similar areas of the lineup. Then I maybe come up here and either grab a Torres to complete the bottom of the order stack, which I don't really want to do. If I found some deeper value somewhere else, maybe I could run Gary Sanchez. I don't think I can run Stanton at 2,250. I'm punting both those positions. So if I'm going to run Stanton, I probably can't run Cole, which tells me that if people are going to be choosing between Stanton and Judge and Sanchez, they're not going to be running Garrett Cole tonight. That's one way you can get completely different than everybody right off the bat. You can still pick plenty of good bats. If I do Torres and then 2 outfield spots, let's go back into St. Louis. And Pham, Soler, Dexter Fowler, if he gets a start. Ozuna, I don't want to run because remember he was cold. Alex Gordon, cold. Harrison Bader, if he gets the start, don't know that he will. Almonte, Paulo Orlando, pretty crappy selections. May have to go to Minnesota. Where's Kepler and Grossman? These are names I already have on my mind. There's Kepler, and now I got 3,000, 3,100 for another outfielder. I can just kick off all of these and just go down here and look to round it out. Ricard, Adam Jones, Trey Mancini, Kepler, Leonis Martin. I would rather correlate with somebody rather than not. So if I've got Minnesota, New York, Detroit and Texas, I'm looking for more Detroit and St. Louis. You know, Ozuna, maybe I get lucky. It's really, really hard to know. I know that Grossman was running better than just about anybody. So if I ran him, I could take Kepler out, use him as a one-off. I could probably take Neil Walker out. And now if I'm looking at a cheaper outfield bat that I might want to look for, I can maybe get that utility spot up there pretty good. Alex Gordon, John Jay, Marcell Ozuna, Lurie Garcia, not a terrible one-off. Brett Gardner. Now I've got the Yankees. If Gardner has a good day, this is strictly a correlation play. It's not advisable because in the research station we saw that Brett Gardner sucks lately, but it was to get me 3,600 in the utility and see if that doesn't get me something up here. Bregman, the only hot Houston bat. You know, there's a lineup. Another way to go about doing things, this is just different ways to go about the process. I would take Garrett Cole out. Another thing that I could do, I could absolutely start with Stanton, Sanchez, Torres. The hot bats. And now I got to make up for it. So again, I mean, I've got to go probably, if I wanted to use Minnesota, I've probably got to go down to Grossman. If I jump over into St. Louis, probably got to use O'Neill again. But see, now I'm kind of set up. I'm starting to come back up. I've got to get that up to a number a pitcher can take. You know, third base and shortstop. I'd love to correlate. I'm already stacked up with Yankees. So third base and shortstop, Minnesota, St. Louis area. Matt Carpenter, that's tough. He's hot. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really, really tough. I know I don't want Jed Jerko. There's Iglesias for cheap. I could take him as a little one-off. My utility guy, I could probably use Hicks in Detroit. And I've got 8,400 for a pitcher. And that gets me Gausman, Germán, Luke Weaver. If I took a Weaver or even a Germán, now I got $2,000 to play with. I can come here. I can take Hicks right back out of there. I can probably take Iglesias out of there. Probably take Grossman out of there. And keep playing with this stack. Let's say that I'd probably leave O'Neill in there and Carpenter in there. Who's going to bat in between them in the order? Maybe Tommy Pham. That chewed up a big portion of the roll right there, though. So I'd probably go back to Iglesias. And now I got 2,900 in the U. So, I could use Grossman again if I wanted to. I could use Leonis Martin as a one-off. Dexter Fowler if he gets the start. There's Nico Goodrum. If he gets the start, I'm golden. Whatever. These are just little ways to go. So if I wanted to take that out of there again, take Carpenter out of there, say in third base, I wanted to run Danny Valencia, and then I wanted to run some Baltimore tonight. What do I need? Shortstop, outfielder, and utility, all under 3,400. That's if I've got Luke Weaver. If I change it up, then I want to run Gausman or, Germán, something like that. Now I can come back and do shortstop, outfielder, and a utility. 3,200. I'd ideally like to stay under that. So I'm looking. There's Iglesias again. Might be kind of where we go. Here's a tip for you. On the DL, Paul DeYoung's a $2,000 player. They might miss the timing of that when he comes off the DL. Be watching for that. Iglesias is just kind of my little go-to one-off. If I wanted to start really running Detroit, Cosma, Escobar in Minnesota, not so great. I wanted to run Baltimore, that's right. So 3,500 for an outfielder and a U. Where's my outfielders? Adam Jones, Mancini, Trumbo. Hell, run them both. But at 3,900, I've got anybody I want. I don't think that's quite enough for Manny Machado. Nope, heck no. Ricard, Scope. You could run Scope. Boom. Leave a little money on the table. You could run, Mancini and Jones 1-2 with Valencia down there in the 6 or 7. And now if I wanted to, I could start upgrading. I could take out Iglesias, and now I've got a $3,700 shortstop if I want one. Carlos Correa, not terrible. Yeah, do that. Have your Houston bats. You just got to mix and match. This is how you build these lineups. Now, I'm not too heavily stacked in any one area. I am stacked and correlated in 2 or 3 teams. I run that in, small GPPs all the time, and that's what produces the results. Because I can run this in cash too, because if it's big enough, if it's good enough and safe enough to win and get up there, if I pick the right offenses and got lucky with the right bats inside those offenses, the skill is picking the offense, the luck is picking the right bats. But by doing that, now you're in there really, really well. You've got yourself all set up. You can run this in small leagues, big leagues, whatever. And whatever you decide to do, you can put that in some 50-50s and stuff. Because if you fall short in the GPP and you barely miss the cash, well, if I'm playing a $2 GPP and I put it in a $2 50-50, well, it's going to pay me $4. Guess what? My lineup just paid for itself. That's one little way to do it. And again, we'll talk more about that stuff if you become a VIP inside DFSArmy.com. So again, this is Chop-a-Dong, Chop Talk. Built a little lineup, played with the research station a little bit. Why don't you jump down into the comments section. Click like, click subscribe. Come check us out as a website. We'd love to have you. And we'll see you on the inside. It's been about 30 minutes. Time to bow out for the day. Hopefully you got a little bit on this smaller slate. Hopefully you don't have to process the information you got to process on a big 15-game slate. Hopefully you come back and see us at Chop Talk and DFSArmy.com. Peace out, guys. We will see you when we see you.